Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're tackling the art of listening,
Ooh, interesting.
and we'll be using Jordan Peterson's 12 rules for life to guide us. Specifically, Rule 9.
Which is?
Assume the person you are listening to might know something you don't.
I like that.
It's easy to think, oh, I'm a good listener.
Yeah.
But Peterson takes it beyond just, being polite.
So what's he getting at?
He argues that really listening can unlock hidden knowledge, like even help you organize your own thoughts.
I'm intrigued.
It's deeper than you'd expect.
Well, let's dive in. What's Peterson's take on this?
One of the first things he points out is true listening. It's not about giving advice.
Oh, that's interesting.
We often jump in with solutions when someone shares a problem, but
But it can be dismissive.
yeah, exactly. Like we're more focused on showing off our own knowledge than actually understanding them.
Right, right. So what does Peterson suggest instead?
He says we should focus on creating a space where people feel safe to really open up, share their deepest thoughts.
A space for genuine vulnerability.
Yeah, and he actually uses this example from a therapy session.
Yeah.
A client, just casually, reveals she's a witch,
A witch.
part of a coven that, get this, visualizes world peace.
Wow, that's not something you hear every day.
Right. And the point is, this revelation only came out because Peterson was genuinely listening. No judgment.
Powerful stuff. It shows how much people will reveal when they feel truly heard.
Exactly. And you might be thinking, okay, therapy, sure. But what about everyday conversations?
Right. Does this apply outside that setting?
Peterson says those same principles apply.
So even in casual conversation, there's this potential for
Unlocking hidden knowledge, both in the other person and in ourselves. Absolutely.
fascinating. I'm curious, where does he go with this idea?
Well, he talks about how many people who seek therapy are struggling with loneliness and this longing to articulate their experiences.
To make sense of their lives, put things into words.
Right. And he shares a story about a client, Miss S. She had these vague memories of a potential sexual assault.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah, and this is where things get really interesting because it touches on the whole complexity of memory.
Oh, how so?
I've always thought of memory as like a recording of the past, but Peterson suggests it's more than that.
Okay, I'm listening.
He argues that memory isn't an objective record. It's more like a tool we use to navigate the future.
Interesting. So how does he explain that?
He compares it to a supersaturated solution. Imagine a glass of water. You keep dissolving sugar in it.
Okay, I'm with you. Keep going.
You can add a lot, especially if you heat it up, but eventually it becomes supersaturated, holding more sugar than it normally could.
Right.
Then you drop in a single sugar crystal.
Boom.
All that excess sugar suddenly crystallizes.
Ah, I see. So is he saying our minds are like that glass of water, full of experiences, emotions, just waiting for something to trigger a whole narrative?
Exactly. And here's the tricky part. That trigger can sometimes be an external ideology or bias.
Oh, that's a crucial point.
Peterson talks about how he had to be careful not to impose his own views on Miss S's story.
Because he could have easily interpreted her experience through a specific lens.
And potentially distorted her reality, yeah.
That makes you realize how important it is to be aware of our own biases.
In any conversation where we're trying to truly understand someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This whole idea that listening is a form of thinking is fascinating.
Right. And Peterson goes on to say that thinking itself requires an internal dialogue.
Internal dialogue.
Yeah, like a back and forth between different viewpoints within our own minds.
So it's like having a conversation with yourself.
Exactly. Think of two kids arguing about climbing on a roof. One's excited by the thrill, the other's pointing out the dangers.
Right, that internal debate.
That's how we simulate potential outcomes, make better decisions. And, just like in therapy, listening to others.
It offers an external perspective.
Right, helps us test our thoughts against what we might call common humanity.
It's like listening is this powerful tool for self-discovery.
But we've all been in conversations where people aren't really listening. They're just waiting for their turn to speak.
Or trying to one-up each other with stories.
Exactly. And Peterson acknowledges that, conversation can be used for less noble purposes.
Oh, interesting. How so?
He dives into dominance hierarchies, how people use storytelling, humor to jockey for position.
Ah, the power dynamics of conversation.
He tells this story about a Navy SEAL. He makes a joke about buying non-refundable tickets to a party after the host's wife gets a serious diagnosis.
Oh, wow. That sounds a bit insensitive.
Yeah, but there's more to it.
Yeah.
Peterson explains that in the context of their relationship, that joke was actually a sign of respect, support. It was
Really?
a way of acknowledging their strength, their resilience.
So the same words, actions, can have different meanings depending on the relationship.
Totally. And this brings us to what Peterson considers the highest form of conversation,
Which is,
mutual exploration.
I like the sound of that. What does it entail?
It's where people engage in, like, active philosophy, seeking truth, learning from each other's experiences.
So it's not about winning an argument.
No, it's about genuinely trying to understand the world together,
Being open to the unknown.
acknowledging our own limitations, allowing ourselves to be transformed by the conversation.
Transform.
Peterson describes it as like shedding skin. You emerge renewed.
Wow, that's powerful.
It really is.
It's a powerful idea, isn't it? That conversation can be this transformative experience. But how do we actually cultivate that kind of mutual exploration? It seems like it takes a lot of vulnerability and trust.
That's a great question. I mean, it's easy to talk about listening with an open mind, but how do we do that when we're talking to someone who has completely different views?
Peterson stresses the importance of respect even when you disagree. Remember the title of the chapter. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. It's a reminder to approach every conversation with humility, recognizing that we don't have all the answers. He also suggests flipping our usual preference for order over chaos. Instead of clinging to what we think we know, we need to be open to the possibility that our understanding is incomplete.
So it's about being willing to step outside our comfort zones and embrace the messiness of learning something new.
Exactly. And that's not just important for personal growth. Peterson argues it's essential for society as a whole. He sees this kind of open dialogue as the foundation for a healthy democracy. It's about being able to engage in civil discourse, challenge each other's ideas, and ultimately arrive at better solutions together.
It makes you realize that these principles of listening go way beyond just one-on-one conversations.
They do. It's about how we engage in our communities, in the workplace, even in the political arena. But let's bring it back to a practical level. Do you have any tips for someone who wants to become a better listener?
I think for a lot of us, it's about overcoming that urge to jump in with our own thoughts and opinions. We're so quick to formulate our response that we miss what the other person is really saying.
You're so right. And Peterson actually recommends a technique from another famous psychotherapist, Carl Rogers. When you're in a disagreement with someone, stop the discussion for a moment and institute this rule. Each person can speak up for himself only after he has first restated the ideas and feelings of the previous speaker accurately and to that speaker's satisfaction.
So it's not enough to just hear the words you do. You have to really understand and articulate the other person's perspective before you can offer your own.
Exactly. And Peterson says he's found this incredibly helpful both personally and professionally. He says it often leads to a deeper understanding and can even help resolve conflicts.
Because when someone feels truly heard, they're more likely to be open to hearing your perspective as well.
Right. And there's another benefit to this approach. Peterson says that in trying to summarize someone's position, you often end up understanding their argument even better than they do. This can be incredibly illuminating for both parties.
So it's not about parroting back what they said, but about capturing the essence of their argument, the logic and the emotion behind it.
Yes. And that requires empathy, the ability to step into the other person's shoes and see the world from their point of view, even if you don't agree with their conclusions. Peterson points out that this process of summarizing and clarifying is helpful for the speaker, too.
It makes sense. When we articulate our thoughts out loud, it can help us process them more fully and make sense of our own experiences.
Exactly. Peterson argues that this is one of the primary functions of conversation. Without it, we can become like hoarders, unable to unclutter our minds and make sense of our lives. It's not just about processing difficult experiences either. Peterson says even our everyday conversations play a role in shaping our thoughts and behaviors.
Wow.
Well, through conversation, we receive constant feedback from others about what's acceptable, what's valued, and what's not. It's a form of social regulation that helps us navigate the world.
It's like conversation is this invisible web that connects us and helps us understand the unwritten rules of society.
Yes. And Peterson points out that this can be both positive and negative. It promotes social harmony, but it can also stifle creativity if we become too afraid to express ourselves authentically. So it's about finding that balance between staying true to ourselves and respecting social norms.
I guess that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the importance of listening with an open mind, both to ourselves and to others. But it's not always easy, is it? Sometimes people's words and actions don't align.
How do we decipher those mixed messages?
That's where paying attention to those subtle cues becomes crucial. It's not just about the words someone is saying. It's about their tone of voice, their body language, even the silences in between.
So listening is about more than just hearing. It's about truly observing and trying to understand the full context of what's being communicated. Exactly. And Peterson argues that this kind of deep listening can be transformative. When we truly listen to someone, we give them a gift, the gift of feeling heard, understood, and valued.
And I think that's what makes conversation so powerful. It's this exchange where we can share our experiences, learn from each other, and expand our understanding of ourselves and the world.
You've summed it up beautifully. And Peterson's rule, assume that the person you're listening to might know something you don't, isn't just a polite suggestion. It's a fundamental principle for living a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to offer if we're just willing to listen.
And sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the most unexpected sources.
It really makes you think, about all those missed chances to learn something new, just because we weren't truly listening.
Right?
It's like that Socrates quote, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing."
Oh, that's a great one.
Having that kind of humility is so important.
Right.
Recognizing we don't have all the answers, being open to new ideas, even if they challenge us.
I think that's where the real growth happens.
Stepping outside our comfort zones, having our assumptions questioned.
Yeah.
I know it can be uncomfortable, but there's also something exciting about, the possibility of being wrong.
For sure. Peterson actually calls those moments of discomfort cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, and he says there are opportunities for growth. We got to let go of old ideas to make space for new ones.
So it's like we're always shedding old skin and emerging, like renewed.
Exactly. Remember, it's not about winning or being right. It's about embracing that journey of discovery together.
Together.
Peterson uses this great metaphor. He says we're like trees, rooted in the ground, but also reaching up to the sky.
I like that.
We need both the stability of our roots and the flexibility of our branches to really thrive.
So we need to be grounded, but also adaptable, open to change.
And that's where the art of listening comes in.
Yeah.
Finding that balance, where we can have these meaningful conversations without losing ourselves.
Without losing ourselves.
Right. We need to listen deeply, challenge our assumptions, and allow ourselves to be transformed by the conversation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what really resonated with you from Peterson's work on listening?
That's a good question. For me, it was that idea that thinking itself is a form of listening.
Oh, interesting.
That internal dialogue, that back and forth in our own minds, that's where the real thinking happens.
Yeah.
And when we truly listen to others, we're inviting them into that dialogue, letting their perspective shape our own.
It's like we're all part of this bigger conversation, this exchange of ideas that's been going on forever.
Right. And through listening, we can tap into that collective wisdom, contribute our own voices.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And Peterson leaves us with this challenge.
Which is?
Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't.
It's a good one.
It's a reminder to approach every conversation with curiosity, humility, a willingness to learn.
So as you go about your day, we encourage you to really listen to the people around you. Listen with your heart. Listen with your mind. See what you discover.
You might be surprised by what you learn about yourself and about the world.
That's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.
Keep diving.